Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome to the review of X-Men 97, Episode 6, entitled Danger.EXE, currently on Disney Plus for your viewing pleasure. I've stated, and I think in every review of every episode, that I'm I'm liking this season. I'm not loving this season. I loved season 1. I really like season 2. Season 2 is very different in, I guess you could say, tone of every episode. Last season felt heavier. Last season felt more, I don't know, man. I'm not going to say realistic because we're talking about mutants here, but it just felt more grounded in a way. It spoke more of a social commentary way, as opposed to season 2. It's not too much of that. Now, with all that being said, so far so good. 6 episodes in, and I'm enjoying it, even though it doesn't quite live up to season 1 in my humble opinion. It's still very enjoyable. We've seen some jaw dropping moments throughout this season, whether it was the evolution of Apocalypse coming to power, or Magneto being completely just vaporized by Apocalypse, and seeing Wolverine go through this kind of existential crisis that he is. And it's a lot going on this season that is very interesting, and is keeping me fully engaged. We've arrived at episode 6, and episode 5 we left off. That was a Wolverine centric episode where he went on this mission to retrieve the adamantium that was torn out of his body by Magneto in season 1, in the most epic scene you can probably see on this show, which was directly lifted from the comics if you are a fan of the comics. But episode 5 left us in a situation where Morph and Wolverine, their relationship is kind of strained now because of the events that took place in that episode. Now we arrive in episode 6 that picks up after episode 5, where we got that giant moment of Apocalypse murdering Magneto in front of Charles. So Charles is going through this form of therapy, I guess you could say, but I would say more self-torture, where he has the Danger Room simulating that moment and replaying that moment, going through the trauma of all that, and Charles searching for just a hint of Magneto's mind in his memory, but he can't find it, and dealing with the guilt that he couldn't do anything to save Magneto in that moment, his best friend, his brother, really, and it just tearing him up. And I thought this was a powerful opening to this episode, because you felt the pain in Charles going over and reliving that moment over and over. It was brutal to watch, and to see him put himself through that was just heartbreaking in so many ways. But while doing this, he notices that the Danger Room has kind of reset, or turned up the safety limits to 11, and it's not, he ain't feeling it, because he really putting it, I know it's the Danger Room, but he's truly putting himself in danger. Meanwhile, we get caught up with Polaris, who is the daughter of Magneto, and one of my favorites from the comics. I don't know what it is. I'm just drawn, no pun intended, to Polaris. I always enjoyed that character because it's so many layers to her character, and she's on X Factor, of course, and she breaks up this arms deal that is taking place, but she uses excessive force, which doesn't sit well with Cooper, who is over X Factor, and they decide to dismiss her from the team because of the bad publicity that she caused, because she was essentially going to murder this extremist group until somebody else stepped in to save them. So she returns to the X Mansion, and this is also a callback to, I think it was either episode 4 or 3, when Jubilee was speaking with her and telling her that, at one time you were an X-Man. At one time you fought on the side of good, even though X Factor does fight on the side of good, but there are self-interest involved. There's government regulations involved and all this other good stuff. It's similar to the Sokovia Accords in the MCU. If you sign that, no, you can't just go and help. You have to be sanctioned by the government to get involved in something, and that's what caused the rip between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, which led to the Civil War and them not speaking for years until Infinity War. Or was it Endgame when they spoke? It was Endgame when they spoke. And so, anyways, yeah, you got that, and she returns to the X-Mansion. And then you have Xavier. He promotes Storm to be the head mistress at the school, and him, Cyclops, Jean, and Beast, they return to Genosha. And Polaris, she helps Bishop with an emergency in the Danger Room when one of the children is almost killed by the Danger Room, because of the safety regulations that were kind of taken off. And the Danger Room assessed that the X-Men must be ready for even more greater threats than ever before, and taunts Polaris with her negative feelings about her father, because the Danger Room is linked, kind of had the same link as the Cerebral, and can read the minds of anybody that's in there in order to manifest their fears and what troubles them the most, so they can conquer it overall. That's the whole purpose of the Danger Room. And so that's the game that that's the game that the Danger Room is playing with her. And she ends up losing control and essentially hurting some of the students that were in the Danger Room with them. And so Bishop stops her before she can really do any damage to anybody else. And at that moment, the Danger Room takes form. She takes a humanoid form to become Danger, which was a cool run in the comics. Read that run, all of X-Men runs, their little issues, their little mini series, if you will, that they had are epic, man. I mean, Danger. I think Josh Whedon, if I'm not mistaken, wrote that in the comics. I could be mistaken. I'm pretty sure somebody can fact check it. But if I'm not mistaken, Josh Whedon created this character of Danger, which is a humanoid manifestation of the Danger Room. So Danger ends up knocking Polaris out, and steals the personal X-Jet. And so she's heading to Genosha to confront her master, or her father, or creator, however you want to categorize it. And that'll be Xavier and the other X-Men who are there, and end up besting them when she gets there, besting them because she can use knowledge of their powers against them. And so Polaris and Bishop, they arrive in Genosha with Xavier psychically imposing positive thoughts in her head of her father, Magneto, because up to this point, she's not feeling Magneto. She doesn't, when she was coming up, Magneto was the villain. He was the bad guy. He was evil, And so she wasn't around when he made this change, when he turned his new leaf and tried to do right. That we found him at the beginning of season one when he took leadership over the X-Men. And so all of these memories that Charles has of this, he puts it in her mind, and that helps her supercharge her powers, and she ends up defeating Danger. And that was also epic moment that took place there. That was all because of Charles giving her those memories. So Xavier, he decides to base the X-Men in Genosha and establish X Corp, which is in the comics. X Corp was this organization that helped mutants and provided help for them and whatnot, and the government wasn't feeling that. So we see that this is going to cause a lot of problems involving Cooper and X Factor and other forms of government as well, on top of the fact that they still have to contend with Apocalypse. And this is where we get not a mid credit scene. It was at the very end, but the final scene of this episode, when there are we find Apocalypse return. He's in Athens at this point, and this is the present time, 1997, and he's resurrecting a body to become one of his horsemen. And immediately you knew this was the worst kept secret in all of television, but we all knew who it was. And of course, he resurrected the body of Gambit. And Gambit gives a little smile as we cut to black to end episode 6. This is going to be really, really interesting, because we know that the rogue factor when it comes to Gambit, and we know this isn't the Gambit that we know. This is a different. I think he's going to be deaf of the Horseman. He's not going to be a good guy, at least not yet. They're going to find a way to change him back around so we can get our good old Creole Gambit back. But it's good to see that this was happening. They teased this at the very end of season 1 when Apocalypse was on Genosha and he picked up one of Gambit's playing cards after all of that took place. And so we finally getting it here at the end of season 6 with 3 episodes remaining this season. I would imagine we're steamrolling ahead, because there are a lot of storylines that, in my mind, I think that they're going to bring out Magneto returning. Let's remember, these are comics. Nobody stays dead in comics. If you remember in the comics, for all of you comic book readers out there, Magneto becomes Onslaught, who was a beast. And so is he going to be resurrected as one of the horsemen, or is he going to come back as a different form of Onslaught and try to take everybody out? Who knows? How is this going to affect the X-Men going forward? Not just Rogue, but the X-Men as a whole, when they see Gambit, and how are they going to take down the most powerful mutant ever, and that being Apocalypse? In 3 episodes, we got a lot to deal with. Wolverine and his little dilemma that he's going through right now. Is he on one of his soul searching missions that he always does in the comics? He did it in the movies, live action movies, where he goes off by himself and try to right his wrongs that he's committed in his life, at least mentally. And so, I'm excited to see what is remaining this season. And they don't have to, all that stuff I listed, we don't have to wrap it up in these 3 episodes. We know a season 3 is coming. So it can roll over. Please stretch it out. I'd rather you stretch it out, honestly, rather than rush it through and it not be satisfying as it should be. But episode 6 was really good. It was a Polaris centric episode, and it dealt with a lot of trauma. It dealt with a lot of mental health issues that all of us, humans and mutants alike, have to deal with on a daily basis, whether it is grief, trauma, daddy issues, and all that. It was all there, and I think it was handled with care and handled perfectly for this show. And so this was one of the better episodes of this season. I think it's no coincidence that Bo DeMeo co-wrote this season. I mean, not this season, but this episode. And so it had some of that charm and flair that we came accustomed to in season 1. Yeah. This was a goodie, but that's just one man's opinion. I want to know yours. Are you enjoying X-Men 97 season 2 so far on Disney Plus? You can let me know by subscribing to KBRadioNetwork.com website, where all of my previous episodes are, including this one. You subscribe and you will be notified of new episodes that I drop all the time. There's no schedule. Basically, whatever's coming out that week, look for it on that website. You can look for it on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Like this video too while you're there. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me as I dove into X-Men 97 Season 2, Episode 6, entitled Danger.EXE. I'll see you next week for Episode 7. Till then, I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.